Just prove it. Those are not the words used by Pep Guardiola or a slogan for Nike, but that, I think, sums up the sentiment in the world of football for this week. Man City have officially been crowned the Premier League champions under a massive cloud of controversy, or 115 financial irregularity charges laid against them. But, we don't talk about that because, apparently the guy who's leading the commission is an Arsenal fan, so he's biased. And Guardiola wants them to get this resolved ASAP, although his club did also just sued the Premier League to get the whole thing thrown out because the guy in charge is an Arsenal fan. So maybe he should speak to his club and find out what they really want before he comes to the press and just kind of confuses us with nonsense. But anyway, we are back with another episode of One Kick from Glory. I'm joined as always by Craig, Matthew, and Marcus.
Hey.
And this is a big one. We've got a lot of very interesting things to talk about and some really serious topics. Obviously, no joking aside, with Man City, it's a bit pathetic and disgusting, really. And it really just calls into account the sporting integrity of the Premier League. Considering, I saw on Sky Sports this past weekend, people were praising Man City for their financial frugality in the transfer window and how little they'd actually spent. Let me just remind you all that Calvin Phillips started his first match on the weekend in their victory lap against Chelsea.
Yep.
He costs £50 million. £50 million to sit on the bench and do jack all for a whole season. But, frugality. I want to start with you, Mark, on this topic because we've got a lot to get through. There's going to be some really heavy stuff to get into as well. But on the lightness of this, we've all gone up against, we, for the first time in Arsenal, have gone head to toe-to-toe with Man City in the title race, and it was quite an interesting experience, one that I'm looking forward to for next season. And Premier League, like I said last week, no rush. There's still time. We've got one more game week to go. If ever you wanted to kind of, give us an update, greatly appreciated, as you won't. What's your view on Man City as a whole in light of their latest victory and, of course, the nasty, smelly cloud that surrounds everything they do?
Congratulations to Man City on winning yet again the Premier League title. From a footballing perspective, they are a fantastic football team, and we at least admire from a footballing perspective some of what they do. Pep Guardiola is obviously a genius, and his success in England is phenomenal. Now, the cloud that is, all the financial irregularities that have taken place is problematic. And I think we can only, from a footballing perspective, want to see the result of that be the truth comes to light, and that there is enough of a consequence for whatever then that truth is that comes to light, being punished. But, look, I think it's in the pattern with big clubs that aren't in Italy, that are able to get away with this type of stuff. I think there's been similar questions asked of PSG at different times over the years, and somehow a little slap on the wrist, £15 million fine will do the job to clear out them problems. I think Man City are going to have to face up to this, but it's just going to be a matter of time as to when, and there's nothing to suggest that that's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, it does feel like it's going to be a long time coming. Over to you, Matthew. As a fellow supporter of a club that has had some dubious financial investment over the years, especially considering the fact that your previous owner, who was so great, cannot run a club in the UK for a little while longer. But how do you feel about Man City in general?
Well, it's a difference what like a few weeks can make. Like beforehand, they were just going on for the league. They were challenging. They were quite far behind you at one point. I think they were as far as 8 points with level games. And it almost seemed like they all had all the work to do. And, we forget sometimes that this is the position they like to be in. They did it with you. They did it with Liverpool. So, the comeback was going to come. We just didn't know how and what capacity. But it's it's that big cloud ain't going nowhere until the last games coming up this weekend. So it's just like, well, I don't care really. I don't care that they won it again. I mean, it's 5 out of 6. I didn't exactly storm it, but let's be real, like they didn't exactly hand it over. You know, they fought their way to the last end. They're probably going to be on their way to a treble as well. And, you know, what the players do and what he's done, the backroom staff to get to all these players and playing to this level and Haaland breaking records is all great. But let's be brutally honest with ourselves. As much as we respect it, do we love it? Do we love the fact that they have won this league? No, especially in this season, the way that they've done it. You know, with 115 sanctions.
115,
That's a, I mean, for those of you who can't count, that's a lot, man. That is a lot. So it kind of just puts a bit of a, I don't know, it's just, I think in the Premier League, I don't think you're supposed to love, especially if it's a rival team, you're not necessarily meant to love the team that go ahead and win it when it's not yours. But there has to be a case of like, you know what, this was your year. You were miles ahead. You know, you done it fair and square. And that's the thing, is fair and square. It's just that it seems a bit, you know, dishonest to say after knowing what's come out, you know. But it's just like, I don't like feeling like that. I mean, if you won it, I would have been like, wow, look at that. But here it's just like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, some of those players must be bored doing a jump after five years, maybe. Same thing jumping. I was watching them do their celebrations and some of them were like barely moving.
If they're bored celebrating winning the Premier League, then they should give that trophy back. I'm sorry. How dare you?
Some
of our clubs have sweated. Liverpool, you've gone toe to toe, hammer and nail, fighting those cheating allegedly cheating club all the way. And yet, like, you know, listen, they better learn some enthusiasm. If they do get this third treble, I want to see. Well, I mean, I don't want to see it, but you know what I mean. Like,
I mean, look at what, like, in the last 7 or 8 years, you know, if it wasn't them, it was Leicester, then it was Chelsea, and then it was Liverpool. That's only 3 different clubs that's not them winning the league, and they've been in the title picture since 2012.
Fair.
That's bonkers, man.
It's crazy. For you, Craig, do you think that all of this news is going to ultimately, because again, we're still waiting for the result to come out. And if it takes 2 years and they're found not guilty or guilty, I mean, because bearing in mind, they have got pending charges from UEFA, which they managed to stall their way out of it. And that's the reason why they weren't actually charged through non-compliance. And there was a time limit on how long those charges were valid for. And because they delayed, the charges became null and void through time. They were never actually found not guilty, you know. It's kind of similar to another case in football this past year, but we won't get into that. But for you, how do you feel about this whole saga? And do you think that it's going to ultimately taint this season if they end up winning the treble?
If they cheated, yes, because like Arsenal went fought tooth and nail to challenge them, and if it wasn't on a level playing field and if financial irregularities.
Yeah, irregularities, yeah.
And they did that and they get away with it, or they don't get away with it, then they should have done this quicker. If Ivan Toney can be found guilty of whatever happened and they've done that straight away, why can't they charge Man City and get the case solved instantly, and so we can know the whole situation?
Do you know what's interesting about the Ivan Toney ban? Because I was looking into this recently because I was quite curious. You know, he didn't bet on any of the matches he played in. He didn't bet on any games he was actually involved in.
Oh.
So it kind of makes you take a step back. And even like Gareth Southgate today was making comments to say about, you know, for the England squad, you know, obviously Tony's not going to be out for a long time, and it wouldn't be wrong to abandon the player. We want to help support his rehabilitation. I'm sorry, Southgate. You didn't pick him for the World Cup because of rumours of this ban. And now you want to come out and be that I'm going to support the guy. You had a very good reason to pick him, and you chose not to. And now you want to try and shift the narrative because he's been charged. Now you want to let the good guy. Nah, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. That's just ridiculous. Don't try and now be the hero. You dropped him with no good cause because he wasn't charged. There was just speculation over the situation. He was not charged. Nothing was announced at that point in time. You didn't call him up, and he was one of the best strikers in the league at that point in time. You didn't call him up, and now you want to be the hero. Get out of here, man. I'm sick of people like that. Get out of here. This is ridiculous. But you're right. He does need support for his rehabilitation, but don't try to be the hero now. Because you can say all this now in public. When it comes around to January, February, March, I can't pick him. He hasn't played much football. He's out of form. Other players are playing better. We know the game. Just be honest. We know the game. Don't try and be a hero. But like you said, comparative points. They threw the book really quickly at Tony, and yet when it comes to this situation, it's going to drag on. I mean, just a good point of comparison I want to throw to you, Mark, is that Juventus in Italy, January, they were banned or docked 14 points. They appealed it, got overturned in April. And then fast forward to this past week or last weekend, it got reinstated, 10-point ban, they're out of Europe. And that is a great news for all of us Arsenal fans, because now we're going to be in pot 2 and not pot 3. So, hey, justice finally served. 1 down, 1 to go. But do you feel like the Premier League need to really take a long, hard look at what Italy have been able to do? Because we've known about Juventus have had some issues in the past and been found guilty. But in this occasion, obviously, they had enough evidence to find them guilty. And this was over payments in lockdown when they were supposed to give players were supposed to take a wage cut. Turns out they did that publicly, but were still paying them their full wages privately, which is what the whole league agreed to take a pay cut and they didn't. But how do you feel like the Premier League should take lessons from this Juventus situation?
Yeah, well, they dealt with it, and they dealt with it a lot quicker. And you know, I wouldn't pride myself on taking advice from Italy and the way that they handle anything. Like, if I'm being totally honest, like, especially from a footballing perspective, they're probably the most racist footballing country out there. And, you know, a big bulk of what they do is corrupt. So, you know, whether it be Juventus or other teams, corruption runs through that league and has run through that league for a significant period of time. You know, so yeah, but I think, you know, if there's anything that can be taken on board, it's speeding up this process. It's not in the interest of Man City, I don't think, or Man City fans to have this lingering over them. I know they get to win another title, but at the end of the day, like, you know, it's always going to be in the shadow of this thing lingering over them. And it's definitely not in the interest of the rest of the Premier League. So in this off season, if they would be able to get, you know, through the process and get something sorted, it would be in the best interest of everybody that Man City start the next season with 20 points deducted. You know, but it's so highly unlikely, you know, and I would expect it to drag out for a lot longer.
20 points, a transfer ban, and they have to start at least 2 academy players every week. I think that we can agree with that, can't we, across the board?
Not a bad idea.
What do you think, Craig? Like
I
that?
agree with that one.
That'd be fun. That'll be fun.
I think that's what it should be.
So
Rico Lewis starts.
And Guardiola can't leave. Let's see how good you really are now. I'm glad you raised the point about racism in Italy. Obviously, it's been an interesting year. I find that whenever we have to talk about race and racism in football, it just always feels a bit reductive, especially when you compare and contrast it with the global outrage of the Superleague. Sky Sports took off their geolocation blocking. Everyone could watch it. They had multiple Monday Night Football specials about why this is going to destroy the game and how this is not competitive and it's not fair. But we've seen, as is often the case with games occasionally played in Spain, where they have an issue with black players and how they deal with what they might call banter. Now, I know in England, we're not all saints and we have our issues. But at least we can fairly say that it is the vocal minority in England that are very obviously racist. We know there's some clubs that have dodgy fan bases and some clubs have issues with players and fans entering onto trains. But putting that to one side, we've kind of got it a bit better. We're not perfect, but we're better than them by a long way. We've still got ways to go, but we're not as bad as them. But Vinicius Jr. came out this week, and throughout this whole season, it's been really fascinating watching one of the best players in world football right now comfortably get repeatedly treated differently, not just by opposition fans, but by the players as well, and also, of course, by the officials. There's been multiple games this season where he's gotten yellow and red cards for offences where he has been fouled. There's been times when players have been over-aggressive in how they tried to tackle him and they've kicked the crap out of him, to be honest. And it all came to a head against Valencia at the weekend where, there were sections of the crowd who were shouting out. They were calling him a monkey. Some people said they were saying idiot because the phrase, they say it sounds similar, but listen, we saw the video and I'm glad he put together a nice little tape to give everyone the evidence, which was ironically was from the perspective of the same fans that were abusing them. So his team found clips of fans that were abusing him from their own perspective, which they filmed on themselves, self-snitching like a bunch of idiots, But I'm glad, because we need to know who you are so we can shame you. Don't hide in the shadows. Say it with chest. Showing them, calling you a monkey, effectively. And to be honest, there's such a really strange environment in football where we have all these campaigns. Premier League, we have Say No to Racism. We took the knee after George Floyd. We had the Black Lives Matter banners plastered everywhere.
And on the shirts as well.
And on the shirts, which was very divisive to some people. And they explained it's not about the movement. It's about these causes and these things. Some people didn't want to believe it. But ultimately with football, they are very happy to bring out a slogan, but they're very, very slow to actually do anything meaningful. But with this whole saga, I want to start with you. I'm going to go to everyone, but I want to start with you, Matthew. Like, when you saw this whole thing playing out, and it's obviously still ongoing because it's not resolved yet, but like, how do you feel, and what's like the thoughts that's like going through your head and mind when you see this happening again in football?
You know what the funny thing is? I want to go back to the Superleague just very quickly, because I think when this all went around, Patrick Bamford said something very interesting. He said that we agreed that the whole Superleague thing was bad, but when it comes to things like race, it's just like we can't all get on the same page. And look how quickly we jumped onto it. So you think something like race, we jump on whole quicker. Like you said, we're all about it. We're all jumping on slogans, doing this, doing that, kick it out, BLM, take the knee, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately it means nothing. But what got me about the whole Vini thing is just how the other ones reacted. Like, I think the Valencia manager or something, or the chairman of La Liga, I'm listening on the radio and the reactions are just so baffling. So it's like, it's kind of, my Spanish ain't good, but it sounds like you're blaming him for the problem. Like, apparently he didn't turn up to the meetings, which, to be fair, with those results, I can see why. And it's like you're saying that he's got one with the problem. Now, according to Sky Sports, he's since apologised, but it's just like you didn't even take the time to take it all seriously. You know, it's been happening on multiple occasions. He's been clattered by different parts of, you know, the fan base, and, you know, they're openly vocal about it. They're not apologetic. You go to different parts of the world, right, and they're openly happy to be this way, you know, where they'll happily not have any like black or minority players playing in their country that's not even in their country. They just don't want them there. You know, England, Bulgaria, stand up, that kind of thing. And what goes through my mind and how I feel about it is the same thing that everyone says. Nothing concrete ever happens, because you cut one off, you take one off, one bigot's head, 2 or 3 more will come in their place. So you got to try and discourage them. You know, that's always been the way I see like how modern football. One advantage of modern football is that they're trying to central out those kind of like hateful ideologies from these players to kind of push them out and encouraging new, more accepting, more, you know, more like just good vibes sort of place for football. And it just staggers me that nothing's been put in that's concrete. Like, you know, maybe, you know, inconvenience the clubs if need be. Why not inconvenience them? Go around the way. The same way you've inconvenienced Ivan Toney for something a bit, you know, for what he done. The same way you've inconvenienced Mitrovic for something that he done what was wrong. Inconvenience the clubs in such a way that, you know, they're your fans. You have them in, day in, day out. You do something about it. Because I guarantee, here's hoping the majority of the fans there are not like that. And they probably don't want those people there. But there's nothing they can do necessarily to stop them. Inconvenience the clubs a little bit more and stop them from coming in. You know, only have away fans. Close sections. You know, do something. Have the players walk off and be like, that's it, we're not playing the game anymore. But do something that's going to nail it home across La Liga. So we don't say stupid things like, oh, it's his fault, and then apologise for saying what you said. Do something that's actually going to make them change. You know, do really properly inconvenience these guys. Hurt them somehow, you know.
Yeah, I think they need to do something more substantive, but obviously they're not going to, because that is going to affect them. It's going to call them to account then to actually follow through on it every single time again. For you, Craig, when you've seen how this whole thing's developing, obviously there's been lots of people pointing fingers at, I shouldn't laugh about it, but they're talking about, you know, Benzema, because he's not really been that vocal. And some people have said, you know, if Sergio Ramos was at Real Madrid still, this would have never happened. The players would have been off the pitch. Someone even said that, if someone insulted Tupac, then Benzema would have been on Instagram all day, every day, dropping posts like nobody's business. But on a serious note, when you look at this whole situation, and I like the fact that Real Madrid have taken it to court and they said, we're not going to stand for this anymore. But what more do you think needs to be done now in the world of football to actually tackle the issue of racism?
Well, it's not just Spain. Spain's not the only country that's got problems with racism in football. There's lots of other countries, like when Rangers went to play another team in, somewhere in Eastern Europe, they went to play a match and their black players got racially abused, and I think the player got sent off for it or something like that. He got sent off or complained
to the Glenn Kamara situation.
Glenn Kamara,
Yeah.
Remember Glenn Kamara?
I
Yeah.
remember that one.
And you look at it like they need to do more. Like we're in the 21st century. We're not like when the football was only, there was no black players. Black players were in football back in the day, and they were getting rated. Like John Barnes, for example, players like Cyril Regis, players that were getting racially abused and all that.
Palmer.
All these good players, great players, Ian Wright, all these great players are going through it. Now, we live in a society now where it's a multicultural society now. So all this nonsense of racism, prejudice and all that needs to stop, because we don't live like in a one nation country. We live in a multicultural world, and everyone should learn to get along with one another and leave that stuff, just leave it, just dead it. If you know what I mean? Like, and with Vinicius, like the way how I see it going on is like they're forcing him out of the league. So sooner or later he might say, you know what, I don't want to play in La Liga anymore, I want to leave. So he could get to that if he continues. He could get to that, and they will lose a star player, and he will go to another club or go to another league, and he will excel even more. And why should he be the one that has to leave because of what these idiot people are doing? It shouldn't be like that. It should be like he should be able to feel comfortable wherever he plays. If he plays at home, plays away. I know if he plays at rival clubs, they're gonna give him like boo him or whatever, but it doesn't deserve to be racially abused. Nobody deserves to be racially abused in work, society, wherever you go. You should not be racially abused in anywhere. So I feel that La Liga needs to do more. If La Liga don't want to do more, maybe FIFA or UEFA needs to do more. Maybe ban clubs from Europe for racially abusing players. Something, just bring in something to stop all this nonsense. Because to me, it's nonsense. It's horrible, disgusting, and it's nonsense.
I agree with you, but look, expecting FIFA and UEFA to do anything about this, come on, I mean, seriously, they have bigger problems to deal with, like, you know, trying to not get caught being corrupt. Yeah. I mean, even no, but let's be honest, look at the fiasco over the Women's World Cup coming up this summer, where it might not even be on TV because TV rights money is not enough. Are you being serious? How is this now being like an issue with you? Like, Gianni Infantino, you are a fraud. You need to sort yourself out. I'm so disappointed in you, because you came like you're going to be the cleanup man. You're different to Sepp Blatter. You're virtuous. You're moralist. You're worse than Blatter. At least with Blatter, he delivered on his promises and he gave us stuff. Promised an African World Cup. Yes, he got heavily compensated, but he delivered it. Blatter delivered. Yes, he was a crook, but man came through and delivered. Infantino, you're just a crook. That's it. But going back on this topic, because one of the things that I've been finding really interesting in like the responses, because obviously players from Valencia have come out and made their own statements. Obviously, there's been people that have been. One of the things that I've found as like a presiding kind of commentary is that the statement, not all fans, or the refrain, and that, it's not fair to like tarnish everyone with that responsibility. It's only a small minority. It's like only three fans actually got found and arrested from the Valencia game. 3 fans. I've listened to the video. I've heard the audio. That was more than 3 people. If that's 3 people, then wow, they need to be hired and be put into theatre, because if 3 people can generate that much noise, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. But for you, Mark, where do you think this? Whenever it comes down to challenging racism, why do you think people are so comfortable with that pushback? Oh, it's not all of us, it's just the minorities. It's not like, why is that always the go-to? Why can't people just accept that there's a problem that needs fixing, rather than feeling like people are blaming them for highlighting said problem?
Yeah, like I think the thing that's rather alarming about the Vini Jr. accusations are that it's his fault for being a creative flair player. And it's like, right, okay, I get it. I finally understand how football works. If I'm able to put the ball through your legs, you're allowed to call me a monkey. I get it. That cool, right? Like, that's acceptable all of a sudden. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that in any way, even if he plays with an edge, that then justifies racial abuse. I think that's quite an uncomfortable stance to take. And then the president of La Liga can go screw himself, if I'm being totally honest. He doesn't deserve a mic. He doesn't deserve a platform. He doesn't deserve to be in a position where he's entitled to be speaking about anything. it's just utterly ridiculous that they can take this. Well, we're not a racist country. Well, no one said specifically that you was a racist country. We said that you racially abused a football player in a stadium, and all of a sudden you jump to you're not a racist country. Well, that's quite telling, right? Like, like if somebody says like, something about me specifically, and my natural defense mechanism is to defend my entire self, my entire family, and everyone around me, it's like, yeah, well, you guys probably have something going on if you feel the need to be that defensive about these particular situations. And look, it's not everyone, but it's enough, right? It's enough of the people, and it's acceptable enough. Like these patterns, whether it be Italy, whether it be Spain, whether it be France, of players being racially abused and then being sent off for their reaction, and then them rescinding the ban a day later, like they've done something great. Like, we'll rescind the ban, guys. Like, we'll do you a favor. You can play at the weekend. It's like, I'm sorry, are you kidding me? Look, I think that the simple, it happened with Neymar, it happened with Lukaku, it happened with Vini Jr. Mbappe said he nearly quit the French team because of racial abuse. Richarlison, who I'm not a big fan of, got a banana thrown at him. Dani Alves had a banana thrown at him. Like, Mane, Trent, and Keita received racist abuse in 2021. Like, these are like, is there an elite footballer that's not white that hasn't received racist abuse in the last 3 years? Probably not. Like, literally all the elite footballers. So are you going to say all of them? Bring it on by, the way they play. Like, is it all of them's fault? Like, I think that at the core, the solution is for these football players not to stay on the football pitch once it happens. Like, it's just game over. You racially abuse me, you no longer get to watch football, which is what you paid to come. I'm leaving, and everybody else should leave with them. And eventually, the reality is, when it happens and big enough people and enough people do it, they won't punish the entire team, right? If Real Madrid packed their bags at 83 minutes, 1-0 down in that game, and Vini left the pitch, all 10 Real Madrid players left the pitch, Carlo Ancelotti left, went to the press conference, said, I'm not talking about football, we're not doing football anymore, you need to fix the problem, they'd fix the problem. But they don't have an incentive to fix the problem, and until there's an incentive for them to fix the problem won't be fixed.
I agree on that, and I really want to touch on that incentive point. Actually, two things, because Ancelotti mentioned this. He told the referee, because there's a protocol in Spain in place where if there is any racist chanting in the stands, the referee is allowed to stop the game. He told the referee, I can hear racism. The referee was like, well, okay, well, we're going to stop the match and look into it. Oh, yeah, did he stop the match? No. He probably went, hey, yeah, what's up? Just turn the mics down. Can't hear anything. No, he's not saying monkey. He's saying idiot. It's mono and the other word. It's very similar sounding. So, crazy. But here's the kicker for me. And I like what you said, Mark, about there not being an incentive. Nike. We know a couple of years ago, Nike had the campaign. I think it was, I don't know what it was, Stand Up Against Racism with the black and white wristband thing. I remember those. A really cool campaign, really nice wristband. Here's the thing. Don't want to hear it. Don't want it this time. Don't care for it. Keep your campaign and chuck it in the bin. For two reasons. First reason, you want to front a campaign with Vinicius Jr., who has been racially abused. You want to put him front and center around the world as the poster boy against racism, like the football's Colin Kaepernick. But here's the problem with that. At the World Cup, you didn't even give him your latest boots. He literally had to wear last season's boots because you had an issue with the player. But now all of a sudden, because there's a chance to have a little marketing campaign, a little, hey, we're Nike, we're progressive, you want to front him, as the face of it. Here's what should happen. EA Sports, since you've now had this exclusive license at La Liga, Nike, I mean, you're not the competition sponsor anymore, but you sponsor a lot of clubs in La Liga. Puma, you are the competition sponsor. You give them the football boots, or balls rather, the balls that they use every week. Here's my proposal to you all. Make an announcement this weekend and say, if there's any incidents of racism in any of the games, we will no longer supply your clubs with kits, balls, and we will cut that sponsorship deal immediately. Hit them honestly, take the money away. Hit them, let's do something that actually really matters. Don't be doing these empty statements. Oh, we'll do a little campaign, we'll film some nice videos. Cut the money off. EA Sports, you've paid a lot of money for this exclusive deal with La Liga to be the exclusive broadcaster. You're going to have it featured prominently in a new video game. I don't care about that right now. If you really are about equality, and you had this whole thing on Ultimate Team the other week where you had like this diversity and inclusion kits where people could download it. If you really care, if you really, really care, and it's not just about money, do something serious and substantive. Like literally cut them off and say, look, if there's one more incident and you don't actually deal with it properly, like you have a racism protocol and you said you hear chanting and you don't stop the match. If you don't follow through on this contract is done. I don't know how much it's going to cost you as a penalty, but who cares? You guys are rich enough anyway. If you make billions and billions of pounds off Ultimate Team, you can afford it. Take a hit on this thing and make an actual stance. Because if not, who cares about any of these slogans? Me personally, I don't want to see any kick it out thing in the Premier League anymore. I don't want to see any more knees. I don't want to see any black armbands, this, that, and the other. I don't want to see any of it. I don't care because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. It's not making a difference to anyone's lives. All it's doing is making you feel better because you've done your little thing, your little slogan. Everyone can get behind it. Same when we had the whole Black Squares thing on Twitter. We can just post it for a week and then 2 years later, oh, look at that. Oh, creatives want opportunities in the industry. They can't get them. So we don't want to hear it. But on that note, Matthew, hitting them where it hurts most, the financials, what would you do, in addition to what I've said, to really make these clubs do something substantial about their supporters? You can't keep saying it's a minority, it's a minority, it's a minority. That was too loud. Three people can't make that. The Vinicius thing as well. The effigy that was hung up, I think it was Leicester and Madrid fans before the derby at the bridge. They finally arrested the guys who did it. I think it was 3 or 4 guys that got arrested. It's been 4 or 5 months since that game, but now they've arrested them. So you're telling me this whole time you could have found them, but you chose not to. It's stuff like that. It's stuff like that that just makes your blood boil. It's like, you don't really care, but you're doing it now because, and credit to Brazil, the Brazilian president and Brazilian FA said, look, we have a rule in our constitution that says if any of our Brazilians get, anything happens to any of our citizens overseas, we can prosecute on their behalf. And they said to Spain, fix up or we're coming in.
Yeah.
Big man, that's what you do. Put the pressure on, and guess what happened? The FA started moving. That's why the president of the La Liga changed his tone and said, I apologise. Because he knew his job was in threat. The VAR from the game, where Vinicius got sent off, they've all been sacked.
Don't play, man.
Don't play.
But that pressure came from the Brazilian government. If the Brazilian government had not done that, this outcome would not have happened. Because they could cut off Spain for trade. See? You hit them where the money is and immediately, we got solutions now.
Yeah.
What would you do, Matt?
Yeah, just keep hitting the pockets. That's what they ultimately, what we've learned about football and sports and a lot of these things is they all care about is the money. That's, the money is so precious to them anyway, never, probably more so now. Just keep hurting them about the one thing that they really, really care about in the pockets. And people, maybe just stop watching. I don't watch it anyway, and probably not a lot of people don't as well, but just stop watching La Liga as well. Don't be the one to be like, I'm not going to support it by keep on watching it, giving them my time and potentially my money for a league that's refusing to show any kind of innocence that they want to change. So stop watching, hurt them, like you said, just hurt them in the pockets. This is very much a similar feeling. Like, you said before how it was like, he's a flair player, he's not very well looked after. He's young, he's talented, a young black player. This reminds me of someone that I know very well over here. That's Bukayo Saka. Very similar instances what happened to him, and the Euros in 2021. And the outrage was very, very similar. I don't know exactly what happened to the people that said all the things because it was literally so many people from so many phones and keyboards feeling that they're brave. Learn from the mistakes that weren't, that on our part that we didn't learn from. Vinicius, you can learn from there. The last thing we want to be denied is another young talent like the pair of them. They got their years ahead of them. They're only going to get better and win so many trophies and go on to great things. Let's not let something like ignorance, bigotry and racism and all that kind of stuff take away from what we want to see, and that's them on the pitch doing what they do best. You know what? Just hurt, like you said, hit them right in the pockets. Hit them there when it's really going, like I said, everybody's got a price. Money changes people. Their priorities change when they start talking about their cash. So just keep on hitting them in their hurts until eventually, we do have a solution. It's a bit like when you want to leave a job and goes, actually, you can have this, you can have that. So why don't you just do it? Just do it.
That's the thing. When you start making the right noise, people seem to find solutions very quickly. On first to you, Craig. Valencia got fined, I think it's about 40,000 euros for the whole incident. Just that, and they've got one of the stands has been partially closed. So just so they lose a bit of revenue here. but not a lot. But I mean, 40,000. I mean, how much did Bentner get fined when he wore the boxers with the Paddy Power? Was it 56,000 or something like that, or 100,000?
It was a lot of money.
So like, again,
Doesn't weigh up.
it doesn't really weigh up, does it?
No.
And to me, it's just like, this is endemic of the bigger picture. Even when they try to do the right thing, they fail. Like, it wasn't like, I mean, there needs to be a serious look into what it is with certain people in certain European cultures that have an issue with people that look like me and you. They need to sort themselves out because we ain't going nowhere. So deal with it. And if you don't like it, you have an option. On a computer keyboard, there's a popular shortcut that everyone knows, which is very effective for getting rid of stuff. Just utilize it. I'm not going to say what it is for legal reasons, but you know what to do. But for you, Craig, like, what do you think about even that response from La Liga? And how do you think this whole saga is going to play out over the next couple of days and weeks?
I think the fine was weak. It's a weak fine. They'll slap them on the wrist. They'll say Valencia will pay the fine. They'll apologize. It won't happen again. Then a couple of weeks later, next season again, something incident will happen again. Another player, another black player, it will happen again. They'll make up. Oh, we're not this, we're not that. Then there needs to be more done. There's not enough more done. Not just in Spain, all over, like all these other countries that there's not minority of black people living there. It's not of it. They don't.
Wasn't there a situation a few years ago? Was it Balotelli was playing a match and he tried to walk on the pitch and
he did.
His teammates forced him back on, didn't they?
I think one time he got sent off. Didn't he get sent off for walking on the pitch?
Yeah, but I remember there was one game his teammates forced him back on the pitch
because
he was walking off.
It was in Italy. Yeah.
Even stuff like that, man. Like, come on, do better. Like,
he was playing for Brescia at the time.
Brescia.
Brescia was playing for Brescia, and the fans were racially abusing him, and then he kicked the ball into the. I think he got angry and he kicked the ball into the crowd.
Yeah.
And I think after that, I think he got booked for it. And he walked off the pitch. He was crying. He walked off the pitch, and then I think his manager told him stay on the pitch.
Yeah, that's just disgusting. I don't understand what coach would see a player going through that and think it's sensible for them to kind of.
I know for certain if that was Arsenal that happened to Saka, and Saka said he wanted to walk off the pitch, I know most of the Arsenal players would have walked off the pitch, and Arteta would have made him walk off the pitch as well.
Listen,
I know that for sure.
All I'm gonna say is this: if any of our players got racially abused and they're wearing our kit, I gotta add that as context because obviously it happened in England. But if they're wearing our kit in a game, home or away, or is in the UK or overseas in Europe, and that happened to them, best believe retribution will come. That's all I'm gonna say. It would not be taken lightly. It will be solved real swiftly, real quickly. Some people. Somebody gonna get a beating. but like, I just to throw this back to you, Mark, as like a final thought, like, because I always find this topic of racism in football to be so bizarre. Because even with Valencia, for example, they have black players for crying out loud. Like even Ahmed Musa came out because the goalkeeper made a statement. You know, not all of us are racist, and Vinicius Junior like to provoke situations. And it's like, bro, shut up, man. Shut up. Because you know by that. Because that is the same logic that people use to justify people getting raped. It's the same logic. Oh, they will dress a certain way, so they deserve it. There's no justification for these things. None whatsoever. So if you're going to go on that, you cannot use that line of reasoning. He provoked people. I don't care how he played. He could do 25,000 rainbow sombrero flicks. Next time, defend him properly. If you need to block a man, block him. But you don't have to resort to racism.
No.
Like, not at all. If anything, laugh at every touch he does. Make him feel like, why are they laughing at me? That would be a bit more uncomfortable. Like, why do you have to go to the lowest common denominator? But for you, Mark, what's like your kind of, when you think about this whole saga, thinking about where football has come from, where football needs to go, and the things that are ultimately holding it back, what's like your kind of summary thoughts on everything, and where does the game go?
Yeah, apparently Jurgen Klopp got fined £75,000 for making an angry comment about a referee after a football match. So that's double what Valencia got fined for having racists racially abuse a footballer in their stands. So that's the state of punishment in football these days. And I think the thing that's a little boring for me when it comes down to these topics is that I know that it's only going to be another good piece of content in 2024 that we're going to be having another hour conversation about when another player has been racially abused in a year's time in another big prolific football game. And why do I know that? Because it happened in every single year that's happened throughout. We look back at when Neymar was, Danny Alves, to Neymar, to Richarlison, to Bukayo Saka and the England boys, to Trent and the Liverpool boys, to Mbappe, to Vini Jr., to Lukaku. It just goes on and on and on and on. But it's not just in football in which this issue goes on and on and on and on. It's in almost every sphere of life that this issue just goes on and on and on and on. And I think at the end of the day, like, football has to really in all areas take a long, hard look at what it wants to stand for. And what football has told me so far that it cares about is its image of not being perceived as racist more than it actually cares about being racist or racism. It cares about being a sport that's not perceived to be racist. So we wear the logos, we slap on the wristbands, we do the taking a knee, we have the things that signal we are not racist, but don't actually do really anything, very little, to show that they are actually not racist or that they actually have a problem with racism.
It's just doing things to placate people that are very uncomfortable with having harsh truth and confrontations. This is all it is. And we're at a point now where I'm not going to say we're tired, but you know what? There will come a time they're going to pick on the wrong player. The wrong player. There's going to be a Cantona part 2, but this is not going to be a player running into the crowd doing a little fly kick. That player will have people who come from really dark places and are happy that their boy has made it far from somewhere in and around the world, not necessarily from the UK, but they've made it far in football, and they think they're going to sit back and let their person get racially abused by some little weak, sniveling little idiots. The retribution will come eventually, but we don't want it to get to that place. We don't want to ever get to a place where people say, you know what, if the governing bodies will not do things properly, we'll take things into our own hands. And if you want to racially abuse our boy, you can let the words come out of your mouth, but it might be the last words you speak because your tongue might not be there anymore. Or you might have been speaking Spanish one day and so all of a sudden now you speak English. Because the Spanish has been just sent away from you through force. But yeah, I like you said, Mark, it's just one of these topics that it's just so annoying to keep talking about. It doesn't matter in all spheres of life. People just need to just get over themselves. Like having an issue with people for things that they genuinely cannot control. Like you cannot control. I mean, yeah, you can bleach your skin, but who's going to do that really? Like, you know, it's not every day, right? We're born the way we are. We look the way we are. Why should we feel uncomfortable being the way we look? I don't want you to feel uncomfortable the way you look. And no one's saying that any person who looks otherwise should feel uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, why are you so insistent to result to that kind of basal, crappy language just because you think you're going to get a rise out of people? It's pathetic. You know, at the end of the day, it's football. We want to enjoy the sport. We want to enjoy the sport when our teams are competing and trying to win stuff and enjoying it. We want to see players like Vinicius Jr. doing really well. That being said, Vinny, if you feel like Spain ain't for you, I know there's a lovely spot for you. Red and white, I think, will suit you quite nicely. There's a space for you on the left wing. You and Martinelli can kind of have your Brazilian little thing and figure out who starts when. But there's a spot for you there. If not, I'm pretty certain you'll look nice in red in Liverpool. And if those two options don't work for you, then, you know, there's always, you could try France. There's not really any other options in England, really. It's just those two colours, really, the red and white. I know there's other colours in England, like black and white. There's also different shades of blue. There's another red up north, but I don't think any of those are viable options because one's a train wreck, the other one's just getting started, and the other one, they spent £1 billion, but on crap. So do you really want to go there?
Oh my God.
Of course he does.
And then, of course, there's Chelsea. So do you really want to waste your time on any of those options? I don't think so. But look, you got a choice.
Have a word, Thiago.
And don't go to Man City because that's just like a waste of time, really. It's not worth it. It will beat the creativity out of you. But if you want to stay and fight the racists in Spain, by all means, do what you got to do. I don't recommend it. I think it's just a thankless task. But you know what? Big up the Brazilian government because that's what you call back in the beef or back in the fight. I mean, talk about putting your money, like putting political might where it counts. So next time, you know, anyone wants to make some kind of empty statements, like our former Home Secretary, well, she's not former, she's former. Like our former Home Secretary, Ms. Patel, when the boys got racially abused. If you're going to do something useful, do your job properly and put some political might behind making a difference rather than just saying empty stuff that no one cares about. Anyway, we'll wrap up with something interesting. Not interesting, but we're going into the final game of the season. Yay! Liverpool can still make Champions League if Chelsea do them a big, big favour and puncture the balloon that is Manchester United. Whether they can do it or not, we don't know. Do you think you can do it?
Of all the 3 games we got between City, well, we couldn't get past City's B, so I'm not bothered about that. But I did say between them, United and Newcastle, I feel like United are the weaker link. They haven't been amazing this last half of the season, just kind of jogging their way to the top 4 where, Liverpool and Newcastle are very much on full speed. It kind of feels like they're there in spite rather than their actual good form. So it'll be lovely to kind of take something away from them and be like, you ain't the finished article yet. Without bacon rashers, you are nothing. So yeah, that's coming from me as well. So if we're going down, you're coming with us too. So enjoy Thursday nights once we get past. I think we can do it. I think we can. So
there's no pressure.
I mean,
but we need something from you.
We want to do that. We haven't beaten. Well, you know what the funny thing is? We haven't beaten them in ages.
So you're due one.
We are due one, and you never know. It could be. So, Mark, we got you back, man. We've got your back. But that
Fingers crossed.
Listen, if you see Havertz, if you see Pulisic, if you see Ziyech, if you see Gallagher, if you see Kepa or Mendy, if you see Aspilicueta, yeah, you're screwed, mate.
Basically,
don't say I didn't warn you.
So basically, he's saying that, look, we can't help. We're going to see some of those players, definitely. Obviously, there's a massive game at the bottom of the table coming up massive games at the bottom of the table coming up this weekend because it's still all to play for. Let's just quickly bring up the Premier League table because I'm quite intrigued by how things have been playing up. So right now, Southampton we know are gone. Good riddance. But but come back next season. Obviously, via the playoffs. You got to sweat a little bit. Leeds and Leicester both on 31 points. Leeds with a very heavy goal difference of -27. Leicester got -18. Everton above them on 33. Nottingham Forest are officially safe. You're welcome. You owe us 6 points next season. That's what I'm going to say. And in a year's time, Gibbs White. But we'll talk about it another time. But yeah, so 2 from 3. Everton, Leicester, Leeds. That's it. We're going to lose a team that we really like. And Mark, you might lose your 6 points a season guarantee. But I want to start with you, Craig. Do you think the bottom 3 is going to stay as it is? Is in Southampton, Leicester, Leeds down, Everton survive, or do you think Everton will make the drop? And if Everton do drop, which of Leeds or Leicester survive?
What Everton got on Sunday?
Very
Bournemouth.
good.
Bournemouth, innit? Bournemouth.
Everton have Bournemouth at home.
Yep.
Leeds have Spurs at home.
Yeah.
And Leicester have West Ham at home.
Well, I look at it like this. I think Everton have no Calvert-Lewin injured again, so they're going to struggle yet again. No striker again. He comes back from fitness, he gets injured again.
They got Neil Mopo.
Who?
Mope.
Him.
Yeah.
Him.
Okay, fine.
No.
All right, cool. They got no strikers then.
Not good ones. I feel like maybe I think Everton will get a draw and they'll just stay up. Leeds against Tottenham. Tottenham will turn up somehow. They always turn up for some sort of weird reason. They will turn up. Final game of the season.
Leicester, West Ham. West Ham don't need to. I mean, West Ham have the Europa Conference League final coming up, so they probably won't play any significantly good player.
They might rest their players, isn't it? They might rest Declan Rice and all them players.
Yeah. I wouldn't play anyone significant in a game like that.
You don't want to get injured for the big final, so
it's not worth the risk.
So maybe Leicester might win that one then. If they're not going to pick their strongest team, then Leicester will win.
Matt, who you think is going to survive it? It's tough. It's very hard to call.
I want it to be Leeds because I see them beating Spurs.
Yeah.
Like with Nottingham Forest, it was always going to come down to their home games, but they simply just don't score enough. And I think they changed over the goalkeeper a little too late. They changed their manager a little too late. So Leicester in the thing, I can see. I've got a funny feeling. I think Leicester could just just sneak out just a little bit, because that point against Newcastle on Monday was quite vital. I think Everton are prolonging the inevitable. They got that lucky point against Wolves on Saturday. Of all the teams I see doing the most, I do see it's Leicester. That being said, even if Leicester do stay up, that team will be very unrecognisable next year. They're barely recognisable this year. Vardy will probably retire. They lost the likes of Kasper Schmeichel, Fofana.
Tillemans is going.
Tillemans will go.
Madison
will 100% go.
Maybe Barnes.
Hell, even Iheanacho, because they'll lose a lot of their players if they stay up. So I think I can see Leicester staying. I want it to be Leeds, because we could be getting joined possibly by another old school Prem team, which is Coventry.
Ooh.
We could be joined.
So the Heritage is coming back.
The Heritage is very much coming back. All we got to do now is wait for Sheffield Wednesday in a couple of years' time, and the set is complete. So
Middlesbrough as well.
Middlesbrough, he's come
Next year
back.
they gotta
Sunderland
come
as well.
Yeah. Charlton
before Sunderland.
I love Charlton to come back. So.
And Bolton as well. They've been in the doldrums.
Not for you guys.
Craig, we're talking Premier League heritage, not clubs that we don't want to see ever again. But I want to.
Yeah, Leicester. I think Leicester are up.
And as for you, Mark, what's your perspective? And have you got any questions to round up for the pod as well?
Yeah, I think all three teams could win at the weekend, in all honesty. I think Everton playing Bournemouth at home is a good place to be. Bournemouth, the season's over, they're safe, they don't really care. I think Leicester playing West Ham are going to rest their best players, you would think, and Leeds playing Tottenham are Tottenham. Need I say more? So yeah, I think all three of them teams could win, which would keep the table in the same position that it is, and Everton would stay up. But I need my 6 points this season, so I'm going to be supporting my Merseyside boys at the weekend.
Supporting with a very small S rather, a very, very, very small S. Like supporting is like,
Marcus is gonna do it like this. He'll be like, yes, it's like, come on, Everton.
It's like a win-win. If you get battered, I can laugh at you, and if you stay up, I can laugh at you. But yeah, what kind of last question have you got, Mark, just to wrap everything up for us today?
Question number 1. We've had a discussion this week. Bobby Firmino is leaving Liverpool. He is a Liverpool legend, Premier League legend. I have gone as far as saying that I think Bobby Firmino is comparable to Dennis Bergkamp in his Premier League legendary status and legacy and type of player. Who do you think Bobby Firmino is most similar to? And where would you put him on the legendary status in Premier League football, in Premier League history, in 1 to 2 sentences each?
I'll go first. I think he is most similar to Gianfranco Zola. And with that in mind, I think he'll land in the top 25 Premier League players of all time. I can't put him any higher. He's in the top 25. I can't go top 20, but yeah, top 25.
Matthew.
Ooh. That's a good one, man. That is a good one. It's Bergkamp, Zola. Oh. Can you come back to me? I need to think about this.
Yep.
I need to think.
Craig?
I think he's similar to Bergkamp. Impact, what he did with transform Liverpool. What I put him as ranking, I'll put him in the top 25 as well.
Yeah.
Top 25 of Premier League players of all time.
You know what? First and foremost, I'll say he's in the top. I'll make a nice round number, top 30. Because I think that the list, I think it's going to, when we talk about how we look at all-time good Prem players, that's always going to change every single year. And even the last, from when he arrived to when he's leaving now, it's always going to change. But if anything, this is going to sound really odd. I don't know if I can compare him to a Zola or to Bergkamp. This is going to sound weird, but if anything, I'm going to compare him to someone like a Gundogan. Someone who's just like a solid, rounded team player who can bring up a moment. Bit like Zola, bit like Bergkamp. Someone who comes up with something a little bit special, and whenever you need them to do something, they'll kind of just do it. You needed that draw against Aston Villa for to stay in hunt with the Champions League. They did it. I'm thinking you pretty much think of another time where he's needed something to do something and he's come on. Didn't he score against you guys this season as well?
Let's not talk about his goals.
Like,
His
if he
Twice.
Arsenal, if he need to go against Arsenal, he'll do it.
Remember I said there's an 8 minutes compilation of Roberto Firmino scoring goals against Arsenal. I don't need to say any more. 8 minutes against my club. Just Arsenal. 8 minutes.
8 minutes.
That is literally, Mudryk doesn't even have an 8 minutes take, bruv.
Damn. Oh man. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it sounds.
And that's a good one.
Yeah, it sounds
I think
weird.
Gundo is a good one.
I think
Good comparison.
I just see it. Just pops in my mind. So top 30, I could compare to. You'd give him like you'd give him like some kind of commemorative plaque. Is what I mean. They'll get a plaque.
No, I think that's a good one. I think like I said, I'm going to go Bergkamp, but I would also probably put him around top 30. I think that's a reasonable shout. Right, final question. I got my two Arsenal boys here. Arsenal-related question. Arsenal spent a record 248 days at the top of the Premier League table this season. No other team has spent that amount of time at the top of the Premier League without winning the Premier League. Did Arsenal bottle the Premier League title? Yes or no, with a one-sentence answer to give clarity, and that's all. I'll start with Matthew, who's not the Arsenal fan.
You said last year about successful failure, where you lost all your games but still managed to get Europe. This is successful failure on the max because you lost the league but you got back into the Champions League. So I wouldn't be as harsh to say bottle. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm going to call it successful failure to the max.
My answer is no. I don't think Arsenal bottled the league. I think it's disappointing how we fell away, but I wouldn't classify it as bottling because the expectations beginning of the season we were nowhere near. That's my answer.
Yeah, Craig?
I don't think we bottled the league. I feel that Man City were just too strong in the end, and they had the bet. They were just winning. They haven't lost a game in a long time. So I'll say that, as Clive said and Matthew said, that this season we did over expectation this season of where we're supposed to finish. Everyone didn't. All the pundits thought we were going to finish outside the top 4, and we're done. We finished second. We challenged City for a whole season. Under the last 10 games, kind of fell off. So I'll say it's been a great season. To be fair,
I want to say something else though, which is in addition to my point. Do I think Arsenal have bottled it? No, but do I think that there is a problematic trend with Arsenal now in run-ins? Because this is 2 years in a row now where we've had something in our hands. Last season was Champions League through the top 4 places. This season was a title. 2 years in a row, we've had something in our hands and we've not secured the thing. Now, you can look back on both of those occasions to the January transfer window. Now, I'm very happy with what Trossard, Jorginho have brought to the club, and Kivior. Kivior's obviously, we will see over time what that investment means. But we know Trossard and Jorginho were not first choice, right? And as well as they have performed, it makes you wonder how much better would the team have been if we'd gotten Mudryk in and Caicedo. As much as Mudryk has been inconsistent at Chelsea, right? He had a very interesting debut where he made Milner look really bad, but Milner's also old, so caveats, right? But at the same time, when you think about the Arsenal squad, Martinelli's out injured now for the rest of the season. Obviously, got 1 game left. Trossard starts. He's not the same player. He doesn't have that explosive pace, whereas Mudryk would. So you can see the logic behind that decision. I can bring Mudryk in and he can keep us playing the same way we want to play. Caicedo coming in, same thing. When Thomas Partey, as he's had the last couple months, he's just kind of fallen off a cliff physically and is stinking out the joint, stinking it out. You could bring Caicedo in and there's not a massive drop-off. Whereas with Jorginho, you play him in midfield and you're just praying because the referee's outrunning him in games. Yes, there's one clip where he ran back and blocked a ball. But where was Jorginho when the clip started? He was already back. Okay? So he's not run from the box to get back. He was already in a good position to get back in to block it. Okay? Let's just add that. So I think for Arsenal, that to me is a very concerning trend, and it's something the manager has to address this coming summer. Because for me personally, if we go into next season and have the same thing happen again, i.e. we're top and we throw it away, I think his job should seriously be under consideration, because he will not, and it's a point you made, Mark. You made this, I think maybe at the back end of last year, you had question marks over Arteta as the guy to take us to that next level. So far, he's making that statement look a bit like it's a question mark on your question mark, because he's exceeding expectations in some ways, but the worrying signs are there. His inability to kind of mix things up when things aren't going our way. It's been an issue throughout his whole reign, barring his first season when we won the FA Cup. Although in that very same season, what was instrumental was in bringing in Smith Rowe, which he didn't want to do initially. We almost lost his job. Second season, he brought in Smith Rowe, right? After he got rid of Ozil. So there's a trend, and I really hope he learns from the pain of this season of missing out on winning the league. Yes, we've got Champions League. Yes, that was the target. But that was last season's target. So all you've done is you've just done what you should have done the year before. Well done. Well done. I'm happy. How far we've come. But at the end of the day, like, this is just not the way to do things. So yeah.
Yeah, like I'll say this to round it up. I think that for the fact that Arsenal spent 248 days at the top of the Premier League table, you go back and listen to me on this podcast anytime I've ever said anything about Arsenal, I never saw them as title contenders. I never saw them as a team that was going to win the league. And I've always been the one that's been quite critical of Arsenal in the progress, on the progress to, winning the title ultimately or getting across the line. I just never thought it would happen. I've been proven right, and sadly, because it's Man City who have won the title. But I think there are question marks around whether or not this club are able to get across the line where it really matters at the big times of asking. You had 50 points in your first 19 games, which is absolutely ridiculous. You're on track for 100 points, which is Man City levels, Liverpool levels of years gone by. Now, I would say, based on the actuality of what happened, Arsenal did bottle the Premier League. But I will also say that caveating that I don't think I ever thought they would win the league, because Man City are just that good. And I always saw Man City getting 90 plus points, whereas I didn't think this Arsenal team had it in them to be hitting 90 plus points. And fair play, 81 points. I like Matthew saying it's kind of like a successful failure in the fact that, you've exceeded expectations, but you've also missed out on what I think, sitting top of the league rosily and comfortably for so long is obviously going to be quite disappointing.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. It's like getting interrupted multiple times when you're trying to record a podcast. It's just frustrating. But hey, we live and you learn. But yeah, like I said, I really think that that's going to be the thing now for Arteta. He needs to learn this lesson really quickly, because in as much as, and I think winning the first FA Cup brought him a lot of goodwill, and rightfully so. I think the club has done an amazing job alongside Adidas, alongside reaching out to the fan groups and community partners to really kind of mesh everything together. Like Bukayo Saka's contract announcement video, I've played it back like 20 times. It's just so well made, so simple, but so well made, and it's like they just get it. They have their finger on the pulse as to what matters for us as fans, to what the community matters and what the culture matters. But I think now, Arteta said it himself, he has a 6-phase plan, and we're in phase 3, which I'm hoping is not like Marvel in their movies, because phase 4 and 5 is looking very, very higgy-hagger. So let's make it not like Marvel. But at the end of the day, he knows what it means, what Arsenal really means, what success for Arsenal means. It's not Champions League football, it's winning stuff. It's not, we were there near the top team and then we fell apart. No, it's actually winning the thing. So I'm hoping that with that in mind, he will show the next level in development of him as a coach. But for me, there are warning signs. And there are troubling parts to what he does, and he needs to address them, and fast. Because like I said, come the end of next season, if we're in another situation where we're in the quarterfinals of Champions League, we're in the last 8 of the FA Cup, and we're second, or game in hand on Liverpool, and Man City are third because of the points deduction and everything, yeah. But we've got a game in hand on Liverpool. It's a 2-point gap. We win and we go above them. And we've got a European game coming up that following week. What is he going to do? and we've got an FA Cup game the following weekend. What is he going to do? Because that's what's really going to matter. How is he going to utilise these players? You know, if the issues with Reece Nelson not signing a new contract, Smith Rowe being out of favour, Tierney maybe leaving, like all these things have happened because for Tierney, obviously he was injured a lot first few seasons, so didn't really kind of show his value there. And we got a player in to rotate with him, so we didn't have to lose him in the run-in, but then hasn't really helped. But ultimately, he needs to make sure he keeps these players on board and gives everyone adequate minutes. I said it before last week. There were games this season and Nketiah should have started over Jesus. Nottingham Forest at home. Give the kid a start. Palace at home. You know, obviously games before the injury, right? Let him have a run. Let him get his fluency. Same with Nelson. Look at how good he's been when he's come on and getting minutes. He might not sign a new deal, but if he does stay, he needs to be starting games next season and not token gesture Europe Champions League. Obviously Champions League now. I mean, I almost forgot. There's no token gesture games, but like not just like little rubbish starts here and there. Like let's give him minutes. Let him push the guys that are playing ahead of him. Let the squad know that at any moment it's a competitive thing, not a I'm happy to be here and I'll come on in the game and cost you guys 3 games in a row. I won't name names, but anyway. So yeah, but I think that's where we'll leave it there. You know, like said at the start, Arteta, we believe you're a great manager in the building, and we think that you can take us to that promised land. And just like the challenge I'm going to put to the governing bodies, I'm going to put it to you. Just prove it. And that's us signing out. See you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.